Imagine yourself at life's ultimate crossroads, facing tough calls at work, family drama at home, or even those quiet battles within yourself. Now, picture discovering a secret so powerful it changes the game entirely. Tonight, we journey into the captivating story of Marcus Aurelius, the legendary Roman emperor who conquered adversity not through brute force but through unmatched inner resilience. Like a timeless hero stepping from the shadows of history, Marcus Aurelius offers us the keys to winning life's hardest battles with wisdom, courage, and grace. Whether you're navigating mid-career challenges, relationship dynamics, or personal setbacks, stay locked in until the very end, because the twist that transformed Aurelius's fate just might transform yours. And if you're inspired by powerful stories, meaningful life lessons, and timeless insights that can elevate your everyday life, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell now. Join a community built on strength, wisdom, and genuine connection. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the crossroads of your life, where every path seems to present a new challenge or opportunity for growth. Over time, as your experiences accumulate, you might begin to understand that life's greatest teachers are often the adversities and trials we face. Indeed, confronting difficulties and persevering through them can lead not only to resilience, but also to the enrichment of the mind and spirit. Such lessons in resilience are hardly new. Ancient philosophers recognized early on that adversity was both inevitable and valuable, leading them to explore the best ways to cultivate inner strength. Among these philosophers, one of the most celebrated and frequently cited is Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic thinker, who ruled from 161 to 180 CE. His personal reflections, known to us through his writings compiled under the title Meditations, offer insight into how to live with dignity, humility, and a sense of purpose amidst the shifting sands of life. These writings, though centuries old, have proven to be strikingly applicable to modern dilemmas. The fundamental idea underpinning meditations is that, while we cannot always control external events or influences, we can shape our response to them. Thus, our thoughts, beliefs, and actions become crucial in determining how we perceive and handle the various vicissitudes of life. The Stoics, particularly Marcus Aurelius, placed great emphasis on cultivating virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, arguing that these qualities formed the bedrock of a stable and flourishing life. For Marcus Aurelius, philosophy was not a theoretical discipline or academic exercise alone. Rather, it was a toolkit for living ethically and serenely. As we delve into the teachings gleaned from Meditations, it is important to reflect on Marcus Aurelius's unique perspective. Not only was he an emperor governing a vast empire beset by wars, plagues, and political intrigues, but he was also a deeply introspective person, wrestling with the nature of virtue, responsibility, and mortality. He penned his thoughts as a form of self-reflection, never intending them for publication. His writings thus reveal his innermost struggles, affirmations, and resolutions. The sincerity and directness found in his diaries contribute to the universal resonance of his wisdom, from learning how to manage internal states of mind to weathering the storms of external chaos. Marcus Aurelius guides us on a path that remains pertinent to contemporary seekers of self-improvement and mental fortitude. This first part of our expanded exploration will introduce the historical and philosophical context behind Marcus Aurelius's worldview, clarify the broader tenets of Stoic philosophy, and then segue into the first three life lessons that can help us develop resilience and inner strength. While these lessons are timeless, their relevance is especially palpable in an age when technological advancements have accelerated our pace of living, sometimes at the expense of our psychological health. By reconnecting with ancient wisdom and incorporating it into our daily lives, we enrich our capacity for empathy, poise, and composure. Each of the lessons from Marcus Aurelius is not only a conceptual guide but also a practical prompt, inviting us to adopt healthier mental habits and cultivate a more adaptable mindset. Throughout this journey, you will discover that Stoicism is not about resignation or pessimism. Contrary to popular misconceptions that Stoics deny emotions or advocate emotional suppression, genuine Stoicism teaches us to harness and understand our emotions, so they serve our higher purposes rather than derail us. This nuance is critical to understanding Marcus Aurelius's approach. Ultimately, the aim of Stoicism is to achieve a state of calm mastery over the self, grounded in the awareness of what lies within our control and acceptance of what does not. As we proceed, keep in mind that these teachings are meant to be lived and practiced repeatedly, not merely memorized. True growth hinges on integrating timeless truths into the fabric of daily life, thereby transforming the inevitable hardships we face into stepping stones on our quest toward personal betterment. Stoic philosophy, established in Athens during the early 3rd century BCE, is often characterized by its focus on virtue, rational thought, and the cultivation of a harmonious internal state, irrespective of external circumstances. The school was founded by Zeno of Citium, who taught his followers in a public space called the Stoa Poikile, hence the label Stoicism. Building upon the contributions of Zeno, subsequent Stoic philosophers like Cleanthes, Chrysippus, Seneca, Epictetus, and ultimately Marcus Aurelius expanded the doctrine, offering new angles on how to live a life in accordance with reason and virtue, contrary to popular portrayals that reduce Stoicism to mere emotional indifference. The core Stoic belief is that humans can train their minds to be guided by rational faculties, thus achieving a sense of equanimity amid life's unavoidable chaos. Crucially, the Stoics introduced a framework that categorizes all aspects of existence into two domains: what we can control and what we cannot. According to this view, we have mastery over our judgments, opinions, intentions, and choices, i.e., our internal world, while we do not have absolute control over external events, other people's actions, and natural occurrences, like the weather or shifting political climates. This distinction emerges repeatedly in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, reminding us that we need not be enslaved to frustration or despair when circumstances fail to align with our preferences. By accepting that certain realities of life simply cannot be changed, and focusing our energy on managing our own perceptions and decisions, Stoicism teaches us a disciplined approach to life's unpredictability. Beyond the control dichotomy, Stoicism underscores the importance of living virtuously. Virtue for the Stoics is not merely about moral goodness in an abstract sense, but also about aligning one's life and mind with nature and reason. They believe that we are all part of a universal order, governed by a rational principle, often referred to as the logos, and that humanity thrives when individuals live in accordance with this overarching rational structure. Concepts like justice, courage, self-control, and wisdom figure prominently. Indeed, Marcus Aurelius advises that we develop moral integrity to stay steadfast and preserve our equilibrium even when faced with turbulence. He maintains that external success, like wealth, power, or the admiration of others, remains secondary to moral and psychological flourishing. Within the context of daily modern life, it might initially seem challenging to adopt these Stoic ideals. The demands of family, career, and societal expectations can draw us away from mindful self-reflection, and the sheer pace of technology can heighten stress, feeding a sense of constant urgency. However, part of the elegance of Stoicism is that it can be practiced anywhere, at any time. It relies primarily on cultivating the right mindset rather than adhering to elaborate rituals. As we explore Marcus Aurelius's lessons in detail, you will see how they apply seamlessly to mundane daily challenges, from coping with traffic, dealing with workplace tension, or even navigating the complexities of relationships. This background is essential because it clarifies the philosophical scaffolding upon which Marcus Aurelius's advice stands. While his meditations have a personal, reflective tone, they are strongly rooted in the Stoic tenet that wisdom and virtue are the surest routes to a tranquil mind. By understanding these philosophical underpinnings, we can better appreciate each lesson not as an isolated aphorism, but as an interconnected component of a worldview that prizes self-possession, moral clarity, and emotional balance over the volatile pursuit of fleeting pleasures or external validation. Marcus Aurelius, often hailed as the philosopher king, offers a rare convergence of political leadership and philosophical contemplation. Born in 121 CE, he ascended to power as a Roman emperor in 161 CE, ruling alongside Lucius Verus initially, and then as the sole emperor after Verus's death in 169 CE. This was a period marked by almost relentless warfare, primarily against Germanic tribes to the north, and internal political strains that could have easily derailed a less steadfast leader. Additionally, devastating epidemics such as the Antonine Plague ravaged the empire, leading to significant loss of life. Yet, despite these formidable trials, Marcus Aurelius maintained a commitment to governance that was both just and tempered by philosophical insight. His daily life was consumed by military campaigns and administrative responsibilities, but in private moments he turned inward, confiding his philosophical musings in what we now read as the Meditations. These personal writings were never intended for public distribution, hence they read more like a diary or set of self-addressed notes than a polished philosophical treatise. This confessional style lends them a striking intimacy and honesty. Marcus Aurelius chastises himself for failing in certain virtues, encourages himself to remain steadfast, and repeatedly reminds himself of the Stoic principle of focusing on what is within his power rather than what lies outside it. Through these reflections, we see an emperor grappling with the same existential questions that continue to trouble modern individuals. How can one maintain integrity in the face of corruption? How does one conquer fear, anger, or grief? What is the appropriate relationship between public duty and private moral development? Crucially, Marcus Aurelius served as living proof that Stoic principles are not meant for ascetics or idle philosophers alone. He integrated them into a hectic life at the center of one of the world's largest empires. From mediating political disputes to orchestrating military defense, he learned firsthand that the external world seldom follows one's personal script. If ever there was a real-world laboratory for testing philosophical convictions, ruling Rome during a crisis-laden era was it. Through his own example, Marcus Aurelius shows that Stoicism is deeply practical, a set of guiding principles one can turn to even when, or especially when, external events are chaotic. His personal trials were not confined to political or military matters. He suffered personal losses, including the death of multiple children, which he processed through the Stoic lens of accepting what lies beyond his control. These heartbreaks did not make him emotionally numb, rather, they deepened his sense of responsibility, empathy, and understanding of the fragility of life. When Marcus Aurelius reminds us to take stock of what we have and be grateful for it, he speaks from a position of someone who has experienced both the fullness of privilege and the pain of loss. This duality imbues his writings with a sense of compassion and urgency, as if he wishes to ensure that future generations can navigate life's turmoil without succumbing to cynicism or despair. In subsequent lessons, we will see how specific passages from the Meditations articulate these messages clearly. But first, we will ease into the key lessons themselves, messages that emphasize the importance of perception, acceptance, and remaining anchored in the present moment. Through each lesson, keep in mind that Marcus Aurelius was neither a distant academic nor a disconnected ruler. Rather, he was a man deeply immersed in the complexities of the real world, using Stoicism as both a compass and a life raft to maintain his equilibrium and moral commitment. Marcus Aurelius famously reminded himself, and by extension his readers, of the power of perception, with lines such as, "Everything we hear is an opinion, not a fact. Everything we see is a perspective, not the truth." This first lesson underscores the fundamental Stoic conviction that our reality is shaped more by our interpretation of events than by the events themselves. It is not the external stimuli, but our internal response to them that determines whether we feel distressed or calm, threatened or confident. This notion is startlingly relevant in an age saturated with information. We are bombarded daily by news reports, social media feeds, and the various opinions of those around us. It is easy amidst this clamor to lose sight of the fact that each bit of information undergoes a filtering process through our individual biases, fears, and expectations. To harness the Stoic advantage, we begin by heightening our self-awareness. This involves pausing to identify the immediate thoughts or judgments that flare up when we encounter a stressful situation or a controversial statement. By naming these initial reactions, whether they are anger, anxiety, or disdain, we can create a psychological gap between the stimulus and our response. In this space, we can remind ourselves that our interpretation is not an unassailable fact, but an opinion that can be challenged or refined. When we implement this method consistently, we gradually free ourselves from being hostage to knee-jerk emotions and unexamined assumptions. For example, imagine you receive critical feedback at work and your initial reaction is to feel personally attacked or humiliated. A Stoic approach would have you step back and note, "I perceive this feedback as a personal attack," rather than reflexively accepting it as truth. You might then ask yourself, is the critic aiming to help me improve? Or could this feedback be valid and am I conflating it with personal inadequacy? This shift from immediate emotional turmoil to measured analysis is key to controlling how circumstances affect us. It neither denies your emotional response nor rushes to smother it. Instead, it teaches you to scrutinize its validity. Over time, practicing this mental discipline transforms you into a calmer, more reflective individual, capable of handling potentially explosive situations with grace. In a broader context, controlling perception extends beyond emotional regulation. It also pertains to how we frame bigger life events such as failures, breakups, or personal losses. Instead of labeling these experiences as catastrophic endpoints, we can interpret them as transitions or opportunities for growth. This is not about self-deception or blindly thinking positive. Rather, it is about identifying the possibility for learning in every situation. Marcus Aurelius might advise, "Here is an experience. Now, how will I learn from it? How will I emerge from it improved, more empathetic, or more grateful?" Through such questioning, we can stop circumstances from overshadowing our sense of agency and perspective. Ultimately, controlling our perception is the bedrock of Stoic resilience. Our mental framework effectively constructs our personal reality. If we continually foster a view that is balanced, centered on growth, and open to reevaluating its assumptions, we become adaptable and robust in the face of hardships. We may not be able to alter external circumstances fully, but we can certainly modify how we see them and how we let them shape our emotional climate. As you move through subsequent lessons, remember that this first step, awareness of and influence over your perceptions, empowers all other Stoic practices. "Accept the things to which fate binds you," Marcus Aurelius wrote, "and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." This second lesson is at the very core of Stoic philosophy. It hinges upon the understanding that while our sphere of control is decidedly limited, we can expand our sense of tranquility by ceasing to struggle against what cannot be altered. This acceptance is not an invitation to passivity or apathy. Rather, it recognizes that railing against the inevitable consumes valuable energy and peace of mind. Consider the manifold areas in your own life over which you have little or no control. The company you work for might be acquired, forcing you into a new role. The traffic that delays your daily commute might make you anxious about punctuality, or loved ones may undertake decisions that conflict with your preferences. In each case, you can either seethe with frustration and rage against the circumstances, or you can acknowledge that you cannot single-handedly reverse these realities. Stoic acceptance is an active practice. When you accept circumstances as they are, you give yourself permission to invest energy in responses that are constructive rather than reactive. Instead of being paralyzed or infuriated by events, you become poised to seek solutions, adjustments, or shifts in perspective that let you maintain your equilibrium. A powerful way to nurture this mindset is through an exercise of reflection. Write down the top 3 or 4 factors in your life that create stress, fear, or unhappiness. Then categorize each factor into within my control or beyond my control. For each element lying beyond your control, articulate what acceptance would look like. Perhaps acceptance means recognizing that someone else's behavior will not match your expectations. Perhaps it means acknowledging that a significant life change, like relocating to a different city, cannot be undone. By concretely acknowledging these unchangeable realities, you begin to free yourself from the hamster wheel of repetitive frustration. Acceptance does not imply surrendering to misery. Instead, it is the rational decision to direct your limited energy toward actions and thoughts that create the greatest benefit. If you are dealing with a toxic work environment, you cannot immediately leave. Acceptance can take the form of learning coping strategies while you strategize a future exit. If you struggle with the emotional fallout from losing a job or facing heartbreak, acceptance helps you stop replaying regretful scenarios in your mind, allowing you to focus on your next steps. In each instance, acceptance is the gateway to forward momentum. Rather than a closing of possibilities, it is an opening, a conscious decision to engage with reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius lived through relentless wars, political betrayals, and personal tragedies. He couldn't halt epidemics or prevent the inevitable progression of time, yet his writings show a man who anchored himself with the knowledge that change and loss are inevitable elements of human existence. By refusing to resent these forces, he conserved his emotional resources for what mattered most, performing his duties with integrity and reflecting on how his responses shaped his character. In a modern context brimming with unpredictability, the lesson remains. Acceptance frees our minds and hearts to thrive despite uncertainty. Do not dwell in the past, writes Marcus Aurelius, echoing broader Stoic and even Buddhist sensibilities. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. This call to presence might strike us as a familiar refrain, particularly since contemporary wellness movements emphasize mindfulness as a cornerstone of mental health. However, Marcus Aurelius's approach carries a uniquely Stoic flavor. Focusing on the present is not merely about sensory awareness. It is also about ensuring that our intellectual and moral faculties are directed to whatever tasks or questions are at hand. By living mindfully, we free ourselves from regret over what has already transpired and from needless anxiety about what has yet to unfold. In practical terms, a Stoic interpretation of mindfulness entails paying close attention to the duties, relationships, and moral obligations directly before us. If, for instance, you are in a heated discussion with a colleague, Mindfulness means giving your undivided attention to the conversation, rather than letting your thoughts wander to future anxieties, like, how might this affect my promotion, or past resentments. I remember when this colleague once embarrassed me in a meeting. By anchoring yourself in the present, you respond more effectively and ethically, as you see the situation for what it is rather than through a lens clouded by old grudges or future concerns. One technique for honing this skill is to set micro-intentions throughout your day. At the start of a new task, like writing an email, attending a meeting, or commuting, remind yourself, I am choosing to give this activity my focused, measured attention. Such self-instructions can sound trivial, but they serve to rein in the drifting mind. Another strategy is the practice of mindful breathing, taking a few deep breaths and consciously observing how your body and mind feel in the moment. This practice grounds you in the here and now, rather than drifting off into cyclical anxieties or regrets. You remain aligned with what you can effectively address. Nonetheless, focusing on the present does not mean neglecting practical planning. Stoicism values prudence and preparation for potential future scenarios. The key is to avoid allowing these preparations to morph into paralyzing worries. You can prepare for tomorrow's meeting diligently and rationally, but once you are done planning, you return to addressing today's responsibilities. You can learn from past errors, but once you have extracted lessons, you need not stew endlessly in guilt or shame. That is the Stoic middle path. Plan wisely for future events. Reflect meaningfully on past experiences, yet commit the majority of your attention to the tasks and relationships that are currently unfolding. Through such consistent attentiveness, Marcus Aurelius suggests that we can strengthen our moral and emotional fortitude. When we are not weighed down by regret or fear, we can respond to life's hurdles more swiftly and rationally. Moreover, this present-minded approach allows for deeper appreciation of life's simple blessings. The warmth of the sun on your face during a short break, the taste of a well-prepared meal, or the genuine laughter shared with friends and loved ones. These small moments accumulate into a life more fully lived. As you integrate the lesson of present focus, consider how it affects not only your productivity, but also your capacity for joy, gratitude, and connection. In many respects, the Stoic principle of focusing on the present moment complements modern mindfulness practices, creating a synergy that can have a profound influence on one's overall sense of well-being and resilience. In the paragraphs above, we established the philosophical groundwork of Stoicism and explored three crucial lessons from Marcus Aurelius. First, we examined the power of controlling perception, acknowledging that what we label reality often derives as much from our own judgments and biases as it does from objective facts. This awareness promotes a sense of agency. By altering our interpretations, we alter our emotional responses. Second, we investigated the liberating practice of accepting what we cannot change, highlighting that much of life's turbulence arises from our attempts to resist inevitabilities or external forces beyond our sphere of influence. By relinquishing these futile battles, we open ourselves to purposeful engagement with the actions that lie within our control. Third, we turned our attention to living fully in the present moment, showing how presence is neither ignorance of the past nor naivete about the future, but an intentional choice to align our focus and efforts with the here and now. Taken together, these three principles form a powerful triad for cultivating resilience. By controlling our perceptions, we ground ourselves in balanced thinking. By accepting the unchangeable, we save vital energy for constructive pursuits. By anchoring ourselves in the present, we can act deliberately and authentically. These elements also serve as foundational skills that will enable us to embrace further aspects of Marcus Aurelius's teachings. As we move forward, we will explore additional lessons that build upon these core Stoic themes, lessons that delve into empathy, gratitude, adversity, rational thinking, inner peace, detachment, and perseverance. Before plunging ahead, take a moment to reflect on how these initial insights have manifested in your own life. Perhaps you have noticed times when reining in negative thoughts redirected an entire day, or moments when you recognized that accepting an unchangeable situation granted you peace. Or maybe you have discovered a newfound appreciation for focusing on the present, realizing that many joys and opportunities can be overlooked when your mind is tangled in the past or future. Such reflections are integral to making Stoicism a lived philosophy rather than a mere intellectual curiosity. Remember that Stoicism at its heart is about practical transformation. Marcus Aurelius did not write his reflections to impress academic peers or future generations. He wrote them to guide himself in times of difficulty, reminding his future self to remain upright, humble, and morally anchored. Though our era differs vastly from ancient Rome, our core struggles, wrestling with uncertainty, resisting destructive impulses, and striving to become the best version of ourselves, remain surprisingly consistent with those faced by Marcus Aurelius. In Part 2, we will continue our journey by examining 4 additional lessons. These lessons encompass the virtues of humility and empathy, the transformative power of gratitude, the need to embrace adversity as a catalyst for growth, and the vital importance of guiding our actions through reason. By adopting these lessons, you will further refine your capacity to handle the everyday strains and larger upheavals of modern life. Let us continue our exploration, holding in mind the Stoic principle that every hardship or obstacle encountered can become a stepping stone to greater wisdom and character. Welcome to the second portion of our in-depth exploration of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and its valuable lessons for achieving resilience and inner strength. Having immersed ourselves in the first 3 lessons, controlling our perceptions, accepting what we cannot change, and living in the present moment, we should now have a foundational sense of how Stoicism frames our relationship to internal and external challenges. The emphasis on self-awareness and emotional management underscores that the route to tranquility begins within. From this vantage point, we are poised to delve into 4 more lessons, each of which expands our understanding of how to apply Stoic principles in our daily lives. Before proceeding, it is worth underscoring that these lessons are not isolated, rather they are synergistic, forming an interlocking web of practices and attitudes. Cultivating acceptance can reinforce our presence in the moment, just as controlling our perceptions can deepen our empathy for others. Imagine these lessons as strands in a robust safety net that catches us when life's turbulence tries to throw us off balance. By strengthening each strand, we ensure that our resilience broadens. Marcus Aurelius, despite his lofty position and myriad responsibilities, believed in continuously refining these virtues, cognizant that no individual is ever fully perfected. He reminds us that self-improvement is a perpetually unfolding journey. There is always more to learn and always new ways to refine our response to adversity. In this section, we begin with humility and empathy, highlighting that Stoicism does not promote aloofness but rather invites us to understand and connect with others from a place of shared humanity. We then move to the practice of gratitude, which, in Marcus Aurelius's worldview, is a powerful antidote to resentment, entitlement, and despair. Next, we explore how adversity itself can be reframed as an opportunity for growth, echoing one of the central themes of Stoic philosophy: obstacles become tools for self-transformation. Finally, we will examine the necessity of guiding our actions with reason, a defining hallmark of Stoicism that ensures we are neither swept away by emotional impulses nor trapped by irrational fears. As you read these lessons, consider how each principle might manifest in scenarios you face, whether it is dealing with a difficult family dynamic, managing conflict in the workplace, or confronting personal setbacks such as financial strain or health challenges. The beauty of Stoicism is its universality. A stressful interpersonal conflict at work can be analyzed using the same mental discipline Marcus Aurelius employed in dealing with rebellious generals or shifting alliances. The scale may differ, but the underlying challenge, maintaining composure, employing reason, preserving moral integrity, remains remarkably similar. Keep an open mind as you proceed, and allow yourself to experiment. You might, for example, set a personal objective. I will express genuine gratitude to 3 people this week, or I will practice empathetic listening at least once a day. Such small commitments can yield significant shifts in your outlook and relationships. As we delve into these next 4 lessons, remember that Marcus Aurelius was only human. He struggled, stumbled, and corrected course often. His greatness lies not in inherent perfection, but in his unwavering determination to cultivate virtues that steadied him amid life's storms. Let us begin with Lesson 4, the vital importance of humility and empathy. Whenever you are about to find fault with someone, Marcus Aurelius counsels, ask yourself the following question: what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This potent piece of advice underscores the twin virtues of humility and empathy. For the Stoics, humility is not self-abasement. Rather, it is the recognition that each of us is a work in progress, prone to errors, oversights, and biases. Empathy complements humility by encouraging us to see the shared human experience that bonds us. Instead of judging others harshly, we can strive to understand their perspectives, acknowledging that we, too, have our frailties. In contemporary society, where social media exposes us to an unending stream of opinions, lifestyles, and behaviors, it is all too easy to slip into a judgmental stance. We might scorn a coworker for not meeting our standards of efficiency, or we might criticize a friend for a decision that contradicts our own moral or financial sensibilities. While some judgments can be valid on a practical level, if, say, another person's actions harm us, Stoicism pushes us to reflect on what we might share with those we criticize. The act of introspection, of recognizing our own shortcomings, fosters humility. By admitting that we too have cut corners or made questionable decisions, we build a bridge of understanding rather than a wall of condemnation. An effective practice for developing humility and empathy is simply pausing before issuing blame. When confronted by someone's perceived fault, ask, "When have I done something similar?" or, "Under what circumstances could I have made a similar mistake?" This mental exercise instantly shifts the dynamic from self-righteousness to a more balanced perspective. It also helps us generate constructive feedback instead of purely negative judgment. Rather than labeling someone as lazy or incompetent, we might say, "I recall feeling unmotivated when I was stressed. I wonder if they're under additional pressure or lacking resources." This posture not only fosters healthier relationships, but also cultivates an internal environment that is more amenable to personal growth. Empathy, in parallel, involves stepping into another's emotional reality. It does not necessarily require that we agree with or endorse another person's actions, but it does require sincere curiosity about why they feel or behave as they do. When used in tandem with humility, empathy disarms our defensive instincts and helps us connect more meaningfully. We might find that the person who acts distant is nursing a private grief, or that the individual who seems boastful is compensating for deep-seated insecurities. Such discoveries can transform our frustration into compassion, or at least understanding. Marcus Aurelius practiced these virtues not in a vacuum but in the high-stakes environment of imperial Rome. With constant threats, political treachery, and the demands of governance, he could have easily become dismissive, arrogant, or callous. Instead, his writings show a persistent effort to maintain empathy and to remember his own fallibility. As we integrate this lesson into modern life, we discover that humility and empathy not only improve our personal interactions but also fortify us against the corrosive effects of arrogance and isolation. In short, they promote a psychologically healthier approach to adversity by reminding us that we are part of a shared human family where each individual contends with struggles both visible and hidden. In practical terms, adopting humility and empathy in your daily life can start with small gestures, sincerely apologizing when in the wrong, listening more than you speak, resisting the urge to interrupt or dismiss someone's viewpoint, or offering help without expecting something in return. Over time, these practices transform not only your relationships with others, but also your relationship with yourself, making you more resilient, open-minded, and self-aware. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Such words serve as a reminder that life itself, in all its complexity and beauty, is a remarkable gift. Gratitude as a principle and practice is central to Stoic well-being because it directs our focus to what we do have rather than what we lack. In a cultural landscape frequently driven by consumerism and comparison, practicing gratitude can recalibrate our mental state, forging a path to contentment and emotional stability. To comprehend the impact of gratitude from a Stoic viewpoint, consider how negativity or dissatisfaction arises. Often our discontent stems from the gap between our reality and our desires, what we believe we should have or achieve. While ambition can be healthy, an unchecked focus on what is missing can eclipse our appreciation for what is already present. When we consciously shift our perspective to recognize life's small or large blessings, a supportive friend, a stable job, the joy of good health, or even something as simple as a sunny day, we counteract the relentless internal monologue that insists we don't have enough or that we ourselves are not enough. You can nurture gratitude through a variety of practical exercises. One straightforward method is keeping a gratitude journal. Each morning or evening, jot down a few things that you are thankful for. These items can be broad or very specific, from "I'm grateful for a reliable car that got me to work safely," to "I appreciate my colleague for offering encouraging words on a tough day." Over time, this habit can rewire your thought patterns, training your mind to scan for positives rather than fixate on negatives. Another approach is a brief mental practice. Upon waking, pause and think of 3 aspects of your life you treasure, perhaps your ability to continue learning, your loving family, and even the comfort of your bed. Moreover, gratitude is not limited to solitary reflection. It is also relational. By explicitly expressing gratitude to others, such as thanking a coworker for their assistance or telling a friend how much you value their support, you foster more harmonious relationships and spread positivity. In a Stoic framework, such exchanges benefit both parties. The person who expresses gratitude practices humility, and the person who receives thanks is affirmed and potentially more inclined to reciprocate kindness. This reciprocity can help create microenvironments that reflect the Stoic notion of living in harmony with others. It is also useful to remember that gratitude often works hand in hand with acceptance. When you accept the reality of your circumstances, you become more attuned to the blessings hidden within them. Even adversity can be an occasion for gratitude, as it frequently holds lessons that can enrich your character. Marcus Aurelius himself faced numerous trials, political conflicts, health crises, personal losses, yet his meditations persistently highlight silver linings, from learning patience during conflict to cherishing the fleeting moments of companionship and health. Through gratitude, we find reasons to be content without lapsing into complacency. We recognize that while we may strive to improve or change our conditions, we can still celebrate the present. Indeed, gratitude serves as a psychological anchor. It stabilizes us amid turbulent waters, reminding us that even in dire times, life offers gifts worthy of acknowledgement. And in a world saturated with stressors and distractions, making space for gratitude can be transformative, realigning us with our values and grounding us in the richness of the here and now. What stands in the way becomes the way, Marcus Aurelius famously noted, illuminating one of the core tenets of Stoicism. Adversity, rather than being an insurmountable block, can be reframed as a stepping stone. This perspective, which might initially sound counterintuitive, is central to developing true resilience. In daily life, we often encounter difficulties, whether they manifest as job rejections, failed relationships, health concerns, or personal setbacks. For many, these moments trigger despair or a sense of defeat. Marcus Aurelius's reminder invites us to pivot away from such despair and view each obstacle as a catalyst for growth. How does this reframe take shape in practice? One method is to treat setbacks as learning experiences. If you fail at a business venture, the Stoic approach is to honestly evaluate what went wrong. Did you misread market conditions? Did you lack a particular skill set? Did you fail to manage time effectively? By digging into these questions, you convert a painful experience into a treasure trove of lessons that can inform your next steps. Similarly, a complicated romantic breakup can prompt you to identify patterns in your communication style, personal boundaries, or emotional triggers. This introspection not only helps you heal, but can elevate the quality of your future relationships. Over time, by repeatedly leveraging adversity for self-improvement, you may begin to perceive challenges not as things to avoid at all costs, but as opportunities waiting to be mined. This shift in perspective significantly bolsters resilience. Even if an obstacle is severe, such as a major health diagnosis, you can still search for growth areas. Perhaps you become more disciplined in your diet and lifestyle choices, or you discover an inner reservoir of strength and compassion you never suspected you had. Marcus Aurelius's life itself exemplifies this lesson. Besieged by wars and plagues, he could have succumbed to cynicism. Instead, he persisted in leading with moral clarity, gleaning lessons about leadership, patience, and empathy from each crisis. An effective exercise to internalize this lesson is a two-step approach. First, when faced with adversity, allow yourself to acknowledge any genuine emotions, sadness, frustration, worry, without shame. The Stoics did not advocate for suppression, but for understanding and harnessing emotions responsibly. Second, once emotions are identified, shift your attention to constructive analysis. What can I learn here? Or what strength can this challenge help me develop? Keep a journal dedicated to adversity where you record your challenges, the lessons extracted, and any improvements you achieve. Over time, patterns will emerge, and you will see tangible evidence of adversity sparking personal growth. In contemporary society, many exemplars showcase the principle that adversity can be generative. From entrepreneurs who build monumental successes after initial failures to individuals who transform personal tragedies into advocacy work, these stories underscore the universal potency of adversity as a crucible for refinement. Marcus Aurelius merely articulated this principle most succinctly, reminding us that we always have a choice in interpreting our circumstances. Rather than lamenting your hardships, you can stand firm and decide, this is difficult, but I will glean wisdom from it. With consistent practice, that mindset becomes second nature, ensuring that no matter the tumult you face, you remain anchored in the belief that obstacles, properly understood, are pathways to enhanced wisdom, strength, and empathy. The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, Marcus Aurelius proclaimed. This statement serves as a clarion call to harness our rational faculties. For the Stoics, emotions were not enemies in themselves, but the unexamined or unbridled emotion could lead to impulsive actions and distorted judgments. By grounding our reactions and decisions in reason, we can avoid the pitfalls of acting hastily or being swayed by superficial appearances. In a world saturated with clickbait headlines, emotive social media posts, and instantaneous digital communication, the capacity to pause and reflect rationally is more critical than ever. Rational thinking begins with recognizing when we are on the verge of a purely emotional response. Let us say we receive an alarming piece of news, such as a rumor that our department at work might be downsized. Our immediate emotional reaction might be panic or anger. Perhaps we lash out, confront our boss, or spiral into dread without any clear evidence of an impending job loss. Here is where reason can step in. We can interrogate the rumor by seeking concrete information, evaluating its source, and carefully considering alternative explanations. By shifting from emotional reactivity to measured inquiry, we equip ourselves to respond more effectively. Rather than igniting further workplace tension, we can calmly talk to supervisors, propose ways to optimize the department's efficiency, or update our resumes as a prudent precaution. Marcus Aurelius emphasizes that the quality of our thoughts directly impacts our contentment. When guided by reason, thoughts become balanced, neither catastrophizing an issue nor ignoring potential risks. Developing this kind of balanced thought process requires practice. One approach is to employ a mental audit whenever facing a potentially charged situation. Ask yourself, what assumptions am I making? What facts do I know to be true? What is still uncertain? And are my emotions skewing my interpretation? By systematically addressing these questions, we reduce the likelihood of jumping to conclusions or engaging in rash, damaging behavior. Another pillar of rational thinking is the willingness to adapt. Reason is inherently flexible. It acknowledges that additional information can reshape conclusions. If new data emerges contradicting our initial assumptions, we should be ready to revise them. Some people resist changing their minds for fear it might signal weakness or indecisiveness. In Stoic reasoning, however, adaptability is a virtue. Marcus Aurelius himself remained open to counsel and adjusting strategies if circumstances warranted it. Rational thinking thus coexists with humility, allowing us to remain teachable. Additionally, reason helps in setting priorities. Daily life often presents us with numerous competing demands: family obligations, professional tasks, personal goals, social events, and more. A reasoned analysis of these demands encourages us to distinguish between what is truly necessary and what is simply urgent or attention-grabbing. This skill can enhance both our productivity and our peace of mind. We are less likely to become overwhelmed by minor disturbances when we have clarified what truly merits our time and focus. By anchoring our choices in reason, we stand a better chance of navigating life's turbulence without being capsized by fleeting emotions. Marcus Aurelius's counsel is timeless. If the happiness of our lives relies on the quality of our thoughts, then we owe it to ourselves to cultivate a mind that deliberates thoroughly, adapts gracefully, and remains open to improvement. At this juncture in our journey through Marcus Aurelius's teachings, it is helpful to take a step back and view the broader Stoic framework. We have now covered 7 lessons that span a range of internal and external practices: controlling perception, accepting the unchangeable, focusing on the present, embracing humility and empathy, practicing gratitude, transforming adversity, and grounding our actions in reason. Each of these teachings is interdependent. For instance, without reason, it becomes far more challenging to accurately assess adversity as an opportunity for growth. Likewise, without humility, we may not be receptive to the lessons adversity presents. Central to these interconnected lessons is the Stoic insight that a well-ordered inner life can significantly mitigate external chaos. By refusing to be enslaved by our immediate emotional responses, we can bring clarity and calm into even the most tumultuous situations. This does not equate to emotional suppression. Rather, it advocates emotional regulation, feeling emotions but processing them through the lens of understanding, acceptance, and rational discernment. Moreover, Marcus Aurelius's Meditations repeatedly emphasizes the ethical dimension of a balanced inner state. Emotional composure is not merely for personal benefit, but also fosters greater compassion, fairness, and diligence in how we engage with others. As you reflect on these lessons, consider how Stoicism might influence your daily decisions. For instance, if you find yourself facing a significant career change, a Stoic perspective will help you separate aspects of the change you can influence, perhaps improving your skill set or seeking wise counsel, from those you cannot, like market fluctuations or management reorganizations. This clarity of focus can reduce anxiety and help you address the transition systematically rather than succumbing to rumination. Similarly, if you are experiencing interpersonal conflicts, applying humility and empathy may shift the dynamic from confrontation to collaboration. Another layer worth underscoring is that Stoicism is not an insular or purely self-focused philosophy. Many misconstrue Stoics as solitary figures who remain detached from the world's joys and sorrows. Yet a close reading of Marcus Aurelius reveals a deep sense of interconnectedness. He consistently reminds himself that he is part of the human community, bound by a shared capacity for reason and a mutual need for cooperation. Practicing gratitude, empathy, and acceptance are, in fact, social virtues. They encourage us to treat others with kindness, fairness, and understanding. Thus, by refining our inner world, we also become better citizens, partners, friends, and leaders. This broader Stoic outlook is particularly impactful in moments of widespread crisis, be it economic downturns, public health emergencies, or social upheavals. By centering ourselves in stable inner virtue, we can respond to communal challenges without panic or defeatism. Marcus Aurelius's own life is a testament to this principle. During his reign, Rome was beset by wars and epidemics, yet he managed to uphold the empire's core functions while seeking to alleviate his people's burdens. As we transition to the final lesson of Part 2, bridging us to the concluding section, carry these interwoven themes with you. In the next paragraph, we will look ahead to Part 3, where we will explore 3 more lessons, culminating in a reflection on how to apply the entire arc of Marcus Aurelius's teachings in the modern age. Prepare to delve into the importance of cultivating inner peace, practicing detachment, and persistently moving forward, all culminating in a cohesive Stoic roadmap for resilience. Having traveled through the bedrock principles of Stoicism and explored how they can manifest in personal and communal life, we now stand ready to tackle the final trio of lessons from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. These concluding lessons bring our Stoic education full circle, emphasizing how inner peace, detachment from external outcomes, and determined perseverance can synergize to sustain us through any of life's storms. Each lesson builds upon what we have already learned, ensuring that by the time we reach the end of Part 3, we have a well-rounded understanding of how to live with resilience, clarity, and moral alignment. It might be helpful to briefly recap how each of the first 7 lessons positions us for the next steps. Controlling your perception arms you against distorted thinking, acceptance frees you from wrestling with the inevitable, present-mindedness hones your focus, humility and empathy foster stronger connections with others, gratitude orients you toward abundance rather than lack, reframing adversity as growth fosters a proactive mindset, and being guided by reason ensures that your actions align with thoughtful discernment rather than fleeting emotion. These 7 lessons are already a formidable toolkit, Yet the mosaic remains incomplete without a deeper exploration of maintaining inner peace in a world that rarely stays still, practicing detachment so we do not become ensnared in outcomes beyond our control, and consistently moving forward even when progress seems incremental or obscured by difficulties. Marcus Aurelius's practical wisdom here is striking because it addresses the tension many of us feel between self-improvement and external achievement. How do we maintain tranquility when faced with social pressures, professional goals, or the unstoppable forward march of time? How do we detach from vanity and acclaim without losing ambition or drive? These are the dilemmas that modern individuals grapple with daily. The final 3 lessons are thus especially pertinent for reconciling Stoic composure with an active, goal-oriented lifestyle. They remind us that Stoicism does not demand withdrawal from society or emotional indifference. Rather, it calls for prioritizing virtue and peace of mind over ephemeral gains. As you prepare for Part 3, consider any lingering questions. Have you encountered scenarios in which these Stoic lessons seem challenging to apply? Do you sense resistance in yourself, or do you find certain lessons easier to embody than others? Such reflections will enrich your encounter with the concluding lessons. Keep in mind that intellectual understanding is merely the first step. Consistent application in daily life is the real measure of Stoic progress. In Part 3, we will expand on how to cultivate unwavering inner peace, even in environments teeming with stress. We will delve into the concept of detachment, clarifying that letting go of external outcomes does not equate to apathy. Finally, we will highlight the necessity of perseverance, of persistently walking the path of virtue and wisdom, no matter how rocky the terrain. By integrating these lessons, you can refine your personal roadmap for Stoic resilience, taking another step closer to the tranquil yet engaged life Marcus Aurelius envisioned for himself, and for all who yearn to navigate the human condition with poise. Welcome to the concluding segment of our deep dive into Marcus Aurelius's meditations and the Stoic wisdom contained therein. We have traversed 7 lessons so far, each illuminating an aspect of resilience, composure, and moral clarity, controlling our perceptions, accepting the unchangeable, living in the present, practicing humility and empathy, embracing gratitude, reframing adversity for growth, and guiding our actions with reason. Collectively, these lessons offer a potent framework for navigating an often unpredictable world. Yet, Stoicism is not simply a patchwork of good ideas. It is a coherent system that draws these principles together to cultivate a balanced, purposeful life. As we embark on the final 3 lessons, cultivating inner peace, practicing detachment, and persevering with unwavering resolve, we will see how each prior principle feeds into these culminating Stoic ideals. Inner peace, for instance, is unattainable without the acceptance championed in Lesson 2, the rationality stressed in Lesson 7, and the humble empathy of Lesson 4 that keeps our hearts grounded. Detachment, far from being a form of aloofness, relies on the self-awareness introduced in Lesson 1 and the gratitude of Lesson 5, reminding us that while we can be invested in our goals and relationships, we need not let external outcomes dictate our serenity. Finally, perseverance ties everything together, urging us to keep refining ourselves as long as we draw breath, just as Marcus Aurelius did even under the weight of emperor's responsibility. These final lessons also invite us to consider the broader impact of our personal development. Stoic resilience is not merely for personal peace of mind. By stabilizing ourselves internally, we gain the capacity to provide support to others, contribute positively to our communities, and approach shared challenges with level-headed determination. Marcus Aurelius's life story underlines this crucial truth. A person with a serene core is more equipped to lead responsibly and ethically, inspiring those around them to cultivate their own resilience. In an era when leadership, whether at work, in civic spaces, or at home, is often marred by short tempers, panic, or self-centered agendas. Practicing these Stoic lessons can serve as a breath of fresh air in any environment. Thus, with Part 3, we aim to finalize our personal Stoic framework, ensuring that we not only survive life's battles but come out of them wiser, kinder, and more centered. As you read the following paragraphs, continue to ponder how these teachings can be practically woven into your day-to-day existence. Can you incorporate a short meditative pause or mindful routine to foster inner peace? How might you shift your perspective to detach from external validation while still doing your best work? And in the face of repeated setbacks, can you muster the perseverance that Marcus Aurelius exemplified, carrying on resolutely, certain that every step on the path builds character and fosters insight? Let us proceed to Lesson 8, the art of cultivating inner peace, a skill that underlies the serenity and wisdom we have been seeking throughout our Stoic journey. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts, wrote Marcus Aurelius, and in that single line he captured the essence of why cultivating inner peace is so crucial. Our emotional and mental states are reflections of our habitual thought patterns. If we let anger, envy, or despair dominate our minds, our soul, as the Stoics would term it, takes on those dark hues. Conversely, if we train ourselves to think in ways that promote balance, acceptance, and reason, we foster a serenity that acts as a bulwark against life's inevitable upheavals. Inner peace, from a Stoic viewpoint, is less about emptying the mind and more about tuning one's thoughts to what truly matters: virtuous action and rational reflection. This means we consciously refrain from indulging repetitive negative loops, whether they manifest as lingering resentments or debilitating anxieties, and instead direct our mental energy toward constructive thought. One practical approach to cultivating inner peace involves mindful introspection. At the end of each day, you can engage in a brief reflection. Did I allow anger or fear to overwhelm me today? Could I have responded differently with greater patience or composure? Such daily audits foster a sense of accountability, reminding us that peace is an ongoing practice rather than a fixed state we achieve once and for all. The Stoics also recognize the link between ethical conduct and inner tranquility. When we behave in ways that clash with our moral compass, acting deceitfully, harboring malicious intent, or failing to respect others, we create mental unrest. Our conscience, even if dimmed by rationalizations, remains aware of these violations. Over time, these internal frictions accumulate, making genuine peace elusive. By committing to virtue, fairness, honesty, compassion, we remove many of the internal conflicts that could otherwise corrode our serenity. Another strategy for cultivating inner peace is to normalize solitude in moderation. Marcus Aurelius often wrote his meditations during moments of quiet, presumably away from the incessant demands of court life. Even in a modern context, brief intervals of solitude can provide a haven for recalibration. Whether this takes the form of a solitary walk, a few moments of breathing exercises in a quiet room, or journaling in a park, solitude helps us step back from the noise of external circumstances, gather our thoughts, and restore psychological equilibrium. Inner peace also benefits significantly from a sense of perspective. If you find yourself upset over a trivial slight, say a rude comment on social media, remind yourself of the impermanent nature of such irritations. Ask, will this matter in a week, a month, or a year? If not, does it truly deserve my emotional energy now? This shift in perspective can rapidly dismantle the intensity of minor aggravations. By repeatedly applying such reflection, you develop a steady emotional baseline that can weather more severe disturbances as well. Ultimately, inner peace is not an escapist or passive ideal within Stoicism. It does not require retreating from responsibilities or ignoring suffering. Rather, it is an active cultivation of mental composure, enabling you to function ethically and rationally even amid difficulties. As your interior life becomes more tranquil, you will likely discover that it positively influences your interactions with others, your professional performance, and your overall satisfaction. Far from fostering detachment in a cold sense, inner peace frees up emotional bandwidth for empathy, wise decision-making, and constructive action, enhancing your ability to contribute to the world in meaningful ways. Marcus Aurelius advises, attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. This lesson introduces the notion of detachment, which is easily misconstrued. Practicing detachment does not mean withdrawing from life or adopting an indifferent attitude. Instead, Stoic detachment entails releasing our emotional dependency on outcomes and external validation. This release is crucial because it protects our inner equilibrium from being contingent on forces beyond our control. To better understand detachment, consider the difference between motivation and fixation. Motivation might drive you to excel at work, maintain healthy relationships, or contribute positively to your community. Fixation, on the other hand, arises when your sense of self-worth hinges entirely on whether you receive a promotion, secure a public romantic relationship, or garner public praise. Stoicism teaches that the healthiest approach is to invest sincere effort in pursuits aligned with your values, such as diligence, kindness, and creativity, without letting the success or failure of these endeavors define your sense of self. An effective exercise for fostering detachment is to reflect periodically on impermanence. Ask yourself how external conditions have shifted over the past year or two. Perhaps relationships changed, professional goals were attained or abandoned, and your living circumstances evolved. Recognizing this constant flux can illuminate the futility of placing your happiness solely on transient states or possessions. One day you may be lauded, the next day criticized. One phase of life might bring wealth, another might involve financial strain. Stoic detachment allows you to appreciate these shifts without being emotionally whipsawed. You do your best, and you accept the results with equanimity. At a practical level, detachment also invites us to be more present. When you are obsessively concerned about future outcomes, will I get this job? Will I be recognized for my effort? You risk missing the present moment's opportunities and joys. By adopting a detached stance, you can focus on immediate actions within your sphere of control, completing a task thoroughly, communicating effectively, or treating others respectfully. The future, while still worth planning for prudently, becomes less of a looming anxiety and more of a horizon you approach methodically. Marcus Aurelius's own life demanded a delicate balance of engagement and detachment. As emperor, he had a formidable range of responsibilities, from public works to defense strategies, yet his writings suggest a man keenly aware that ultimate outcomes, like the empire's fate or people's approval, were partially beyond his control. He sought to be a just ruler, implement wise policies, and maintain discipline in the Roman legions, but he did not presume that he could dictate the future's every turn. This mindset allowed him to remain steadfast, even in the face of calamities like the Antonine Plague, confident that what truly mattered was his integrity and conscientious effort, not the shifting tides of fortune. Thus, to practice Stoic detachment, commit wholeheartedly to what aligns with your moral compass and personal goals. Simultaneously, cultivate the understanding that results, public opinions, and even life circumstances are transient. By decoupling your self-worth from these transient variables, you reserve your emotional energy for what genuinely endures: your character, your virtues, and the depth of your relationships with others. In one of his reflections, Marcus Aurelius warns against self-indulgent fantasies of what we lack, instead telling us to reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess, and then thankfully remember how you would crave for them if they were not yours. This final lesson encapsulates the Stoic ethic of perseverance, the commitment to persist on the path of virtue, self-improvement, and rational thinking, regardless of setbacks or slow progress. In modern parlance, we often talk about growth mindset, the belief that abilities and circumstances can evolve through continuous effort and learning. Marcus Aurelius's teaching predates that concept by nearly 2 millennia, stressing that a consistent forward motion is key to warding off despondency and stagnation. Perseverance does not mean blindly charging ahead without reflection. Rather, it involves a cyclic process of planning, acting, evaluating outcomes, and adjusting as needed. You may, for instance, develop a roadmap for improving your communication skills or forging stronger personal relationships. When faced with criticisms or apparent failures, the Stoic approach is to interpret these events as feedback. Instead of internalizing them as insurmountable judgments on your worth, you integrate the lessons and modify your methods. If something doesn't go as planned, that is not a sign you must abandon your aim. It is a nudge to adapt, refine, and keep pressing on. Stoic perseverance also draws on many of the earlier lessons in this series. Because you have been practicing detachment, you are less discouraged by short-term results. Because you understand the importance of acceptance, you do not spend excessive energy lamenting the unchangeable aspects of your environment. Because you know how to harness reason, you are better equipped to strategize your next steps. This synergy transforms perseverance from a grim, stubborn refusal to quit into a thoughtful, dynamic engagement with each challenge. You persevere not out of desperation, but out of a steady conviction that improvement and moral excellence are reachable through consistent effort. A powerful tool to maintain perseverance is setting incremental goals. Large ambitions, such as writing a book, launching a business, or mastering a new skill, can seem daunting if measured only by final results. By breaking these pursuits into smaller milestones, you create regular opportunities to celebrate progress and recalibrate. Additionally, it is worthwhile to anchor your perseverance in a sense of purpose. Ask yourself, what deeper values am I honoring through my efforts? Perhaps you are driven by the desire to provide for your family, leave a positive impact in your field, or grow as a compassionate and knowledgeable individual. When you connect perseverance to those core values, even mundane tasks or repetitive rehearsals become imbued with meaning. In times of doubt, recall that Marcus Aurelius managed an empire under siege by war and disease. Despite vast burdens and personal grief, he consistently returned to his journal to reaffirm his belief in the power of human virtue, reason, and resolute action. If such perseverance was possible in those dire circumstances, it remains possible for us today, whether the obstacles we face are global or intimately personal. Thus, persevering becomes not just a means to personal advancement, but a testament to the human spirit's capacity to overcome adversity, guided by an unwavering commitment to live according to principles that transcend fleeting triumphs or defeats. Having examined the full arc of Marcus Aurelius's Stoic teachings, from controlling our perceptions in Lesson 1 to persevering with fortitude in Lesson 10, we stand at a point of integration. How do we weave these lessons into the fabric of everyday life in a way that is both practical and enduring? The first key insight is that Stoic practice is iterative. There is no finishing line where one proclaims, "I have mastered Stoicism." Instead, each day provides fresh scenarios to which we can apply these principles. One morning you might excel at focusing on the present, and by afternoon you might struggle with releasing anger toward a coworker. Such inconsistencies are natural, and Marcus Aurelius himself admitted to lapses. The goal is to recognize these stumbles and persist in refining our habits. In practical terms, you could develop a weekly Stoic check-in, where you revisit the 10 lessons and assess how well you have embodied each principle. Perhaps you note that you successfully implemented acceptance in dealing with a canceled event, but you fell short on practicing gratitude in your daily interactions. These reflections are not for self-judgment or shame, but for motivation to apply the lessons more consistently. You might add or modify daily routines, like pausing for a few minutes of mindful breathing between major tasks, or setting a daily alarm that reminds you to express gratitude to someone. Over time, these gentle nudges accumulate, fortifying the mental muscles required for Stoic resilience. Another important factor is the community aspect. While Stoicism is often depicted as a solitary pursuit, mutual reinforcement can be hugely beneficial. You might find a discussion group, online forum, or circle of friends who are also exploring these teachings. Sharing experiences, success stories, and setbacks allows you to learn from different perspectives. This communal approach resembles the ancient practice of philosophical dialogues, where students and teachers debated and refined their thinking collaboratively. If you prefer a more personal approach, even a single accountability partner, a friend or mentor who checks in with you, can help keep you on track with your commitments. Further, consider using Marcus Aurelius's actual text Meditations as a reference point. While we have explored core themes, the original work offers a myriad of insights scattered across various reflections. Periodically returning to those writings can deepen your understanding, spark new epiphanies, and remind you that these lessons emerged from a very human mind grappling with the trials of everyday and sometimes extraordinary challenges. In reading his words directly, you may also experience the potency of certain turns of phrase that resonate more profoundly than any summary could. It is also critical to remember the ethical dimensions of Stoicism. True resilience is not about hardening yourself against the world, but becoming a beneficial presence in it. By practicing empathy, humility, and reason, you inevitably enrich your relationships and social contexts. You become someone who can be counted on to remain level-headed under stress, to offer fair-minded solutions in conflicts, and to extend compassion toward those in need. In this way, Stoic training elevates not just your personal well-being, but also the collective well-being of those you interact with, family, colleagues, community members, and beyond. Finally, do not be disheartened by the slow pace at which inner transformation sometimes proceeds. Stoic mastery is an ever-evolving endeavor, an ongoing conversation between your aspirations and your lived experiences. With every stumbling block, adversity, or emotional wave, you have a new opportunity to apply these lessons, recalibrate, and move forward. This daily striving, more than any rigid notion of success or failure, is what defines a Stoic life well lived. In the spirit of Marcus Aurelius, resilience as reflected in Marcus Aurelius's writings is not a static trait, but a dynamic skill we develop through repeated practice and self-examination. Throughout his meditations, he grapples with the existential weight of political duties, warfare, disease, and personal loss. Yet he finds in Stoicism a path to remain grounded, purposeful, and humane. His experiences demonstrate that resilience is neither an inborn gift nor a matter of simple willpower. It is a discipline that intertwines emotional regulation, ethical conviction, and self-awareness. When we talk about cultivating resilience today, we often focus on bouncing back from failures. Marcus Aurelius's approach goes deeper, suggesting that true resilience is about growing stronger and wiser through each trial. What does this look like in practical, everyday scenarios? Imagine you face a setback. Maybe you lose a coveted promotion or experience strain in a close friendship. The lessons from Stoicism guide you to step away from the initial rush of negative emotions and systematically assess the situation. You identify what is in your control, perhaps improving your skill set or offering a sincere apology, and what is not, company politics or another person's emotional readiness. By realigning with your Stoic principles, reason, acceptance, gratitude for what you do have, you salvage the silver linings and maintain a sense of self-worth and direction. Over time, these repeated responses to adversity accumulate, forging a robust mental framework that can withstand harsher tempests. In addition, resilience fueled by Stoicism is profoundly values-driven. Each hardship you survive and learn from sharpens your moral compass, reminding you of what truly matters. You may come to realize that ambition without ethical grounding can lead to restlessness rather than fulfillment. Or, you might discover that adversity tested your empathy and humility, revealing where you still harbor judgments or insecurities. Such insights help refine your next steps, ensuring that personal growth aligns with deeper virtues like honesty, compassion, and courage. This cyclical process, challenge, reflection, recalibration, nurtures not only an unshakable mindset, but also a more enlightened heart. Indeed, Stoic resilience is not about toughening up or suppressing genuine emotions. It is about orchestrating them in a symphony of reason and virtue. Like an ancient Roman soldier fortifying a city under siege, you fortify your mind against destructive invasions of fear or anger. Yet within those city walls, you still experience the vibrant array of human emotions: love, sorrow, hope. Only now they are harmonized rather than chaotic. This state of harmonious resilience stands as one of the most sublime gifts Stoicism can offer. It invites you to navigate life's brambles without losing sight of your moral and emotional core, enabling you to adapt with grace and uphold your principles in the face of any storm. As we near the end of our journey through Marcus Aurelius's lessons, let us keep this layered understanding of resilience alive in our minds. The question is not whether adversity will come, it will, but rather how we will meet it when it arrives. Stoicism provides not a shield to hide behind, but a sturdy framework upon which we can build a life of continual progress, empathy, and resolve. In this comprehensive exploration, we have traversed the core Stoic teachings embedded in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, expanding them into practical lessons for the contemporary seeker. From learning to manage our perceptions to tirelessly moving forward in the face of adversity, each lesson converges upon one essential premise: that the seed of our well-being and moral excellence lies within, shaped by how we choose to think and act. These insights are neither archaic nor limited to the grandeur of an emperor's life. They hold profound resonance for our modern era, where external pressures can feel as overwhelming as any ancient battlefield. Central to this philosophy is the conviction that while you cannot dictate every outcome or event, you do hold dominion over your mind, intentions, and moral stance. By turning inward, you discover the space to respond rather than react, to find serenity instead of chaos, and to maintain a steadfast sense of self, even when the world around you trembles. Marcus Aurelius's reflections underline that inner mastery is not a passive retreat from the world. It is the wellspring of ethical leadership, genuine compassion, and the kind of resilience that endures. In the quiet discipline of a private journal, he forged a path that balanced responsibility for others with self-cultivation, showing that these two pursuits are in fact complementary. Let us recall the 10 lessons. Control your perception. Your interpretations shape your emotional reality. Accept what you cannot change. Peace emerges from ceasing to fight inevitable realities. Focus on the present moment. True clarity and calm reside in the here and now. Cultivate humility and empathy. Recognize shared human frailties before casting judgment. Practice gratitude. Acknowledge and appreciate the riches you already possess. Embrace adversity. Transform obstacles into catalysts for growth. Be guided by reason. Let logic and clarity inform your decisions. Cultivate inner peace. Nurture a tranquil mind attuned to virtue and perspective. Practice detachment. Pursue goals wholeheartedly, but do not tether your self-worth to external outcomes. Keep moving forward. Perseverance in alignment with virtue leads to ongoing refinement. Though simple at a glance, each precept demands consistency and reflection to fully integrate. As you carry these lessons into your day-to-day life, remember that Stoic philosophy is a living practice, one that unfolds through mindful repetition and the willingness to examine your own thoughts and actions. Moments of faltering are not failures, but invitations to deepen your understanding. In the spirit of Marcus Aurelius, you might even keep your own meditations, a place to record your daily encounters with these lessons. Note what worked and what didn't, and outline steps for further growth. Such a practice will not only anchor you in Stoic wisdom, but also serve as a mirror for your transformation over time. Ultimately, the greatest testament to these teachings is the life you lead, one marked by resilience, ethical conduct, and a serene acceptance of the tides of fortune. If, in emulating the philosopher king, you find yourself navigating challenges with greater calm, forging meaningful connections and acting in accordance with your highest principles, then you have begun to harness the timeless power of Stoicism in your own modern context. Looking back on Marcus Aurelius's epic journey reminds me of something deeply true. Resilience isn't simply overcoming obstacles. It's the quiet strength we discover within ourselves along the way. Personally, this Stoic wisdom hasn't just helped me survive life's battles. It's given me the confidence to thrive, even when times get tough. It's about turning setbacks into setups for incredible comebacks. Like a classic Hollywood hero, each of us faces our own pivotal moments, moments that define our legacy. And just as Marcus Aurelius found strength in adversity, so can we. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your greatest takeaway from this legendary story? What challenges have shaped your personal journey? Share your thoughts in the comments below, because your experiences might just inspire the next viewer's breakthrough. Let's start the conversation.